Weeds on an organic farm can be well controlled. It takes planning, it takes attention to detail and attention to the timeline. And you really need to observe the weeds that you're trying to control and understand what your management is doing to those weeds. I'm Daniel Parson. I'm the farmer educator here at the Oxford College Farm. Weeds are a plant out of place, and they exploit environments that we set up for our growing plants. Weeds come in two basic categories, which are annuals and perennials, and that's important for their management. With annuals, it's about controlling the weed, but also keeping it from going to seed. The seed is how it exists from year to year. Perennials will store energy in their structures. You want to restrict their ability to capture and store energy for the next season. Controlling perennials can be really daunting, but at times it can be easier than you think because of the cultivation we're doing, the crop rotations that we're doing are hard for those perennials to survive year after year. We control them by shading and plowing during their growing season and things like that. There are three main ways we manage weeds, and that's mowing, covering, and cultivating. And the first of those is mowing. We use that less often to manage the weeds in our crops, but more often to manage our weeds that are outside of our fields that are currently growing. Covering is an effective way to manage weeds. It keeps the light from reaching them, and that way they don't grow properly. Something I have done in the past is using landscape fabric with holes burned in it for the plants. In our tomatoes and sometimes in our peppers and eggplant, we'll mulch using straw. We've also used leaf mulch, and it does the same thing as black plastic. The good thing about leaf mulch is that when the season's over, you can plow it in and it actually improves your soil health. Cultivation really is moving the soil. On this farm, we follow a weed management timeline that's pretty well set. We prepare the soil, we fertilize, we till that in, we create beds. We do another step after bedding is we let the field sit for about a week. This allows weeds to germinate, which seems counterintuitive, but those early germinated weeds we can kill with a tool we call the power harrow. And that harrow, instead of like a tiller which brings up new weed seed, it actually spins laterally. And so it kills the weeds without bringing new weed seed up. And that creates what we call a stale seed bed. The purpose of it is that the plants we plant or the seeds we plant will have a head start over the weed seeds. As we're planting, whether we're direct seeding or transplanting, we're thinking about our spacing in relation to our weeding tools. We use a gritter for spacing. This gritter provides lines down the row to keep our rows at a certain spacing, and it also provides cross spacing for the in row. Our bed is about 30 inches wide, so we either grow 1, 2, 3, or 4 rows on that same size bed. So we have a between row spacing that's different, and each one will have a different weeding tool that works with that spacing. So now that we have our crop planted at a certain spacing, we wait between 1 and 2 weeks. The best stage is the thread stage for weeds. Thread stage weeds may not have even emerged from the soil, but you can stir a little soil up and you'll see little white threads. That's the weed. All the weeds we're killing with cultivation are dying by desiccation or drying out. So that little thread stage, you move the soil a little bit, it's going to dry right out and it will never develop into a plant. If the weeds emerge and are tiny, then a very small soil disturbance will kill those weeds. If you wait till the weeds have true leaves and you can see them from the edge of the field, then you have more work to do. And that's why we focus on that thread stage of development. The most shallow cultivation at that time is effective in killing the weed seeds. The other reason we want to shallow cultivate is that we don't want to bring up new weed seeds. If we cultivate them deeply, that brings up new soil from depths to that inch or two that's good for weed seed germination. We want to shallow cultivate when we're weeding. And that first weeding is going to happen in the first week or two. We're going to come back another week or two later to hopefully do our second and final weeding. And that hits the critical weed-free period for most crops. So most crops have a period that they need to be weed-free to produce an optimal crop. We don't have to completely eliminate weeds. We just have to keep them weed-free in that critical crop period. We use a variety of tools. All are a little bit different, but they all do the same thing. They're designed to cultivate shallowly, kill the weeds without bringing up new weed seed. We've got our wheel hose, which are attached to a wheel, and then we have our hand tools. We use a lot of stirrup hose here. We have different size stirrup hose for different spacing of crops. The stirrup hoe has a back and forth movement. That back and forth action gently lifts the soil and cultivates and kills the weeds. Those can be either wheel hoe or hand tool mounted. The collinear hoe is really precise, and this is a straight bladed tool that has a very thin blade. We got a new tool that's called a TOPP, and it's designed to actually straddle the row. There's a wheel on either side of the row, and there's a tool weeding on either side of the row. So a small crop like carrots, this TOPP works really well because we've got the discs on either side protecting the crop from that soil we're moving to cultivate. When we're talking about carrots, they're so difficult because we have to get down on our hands and knees and weed them in the row. So those hand hoes are really important for things like carrots, so we actually do a real detail weeding. Weeds are challenging, but we have organic methods to deal with them. And the reason that we do that extra work is to protect the environment. We are not trying to eliminate weeds because that's never going to happen. They're going to be part of our farm system. And in some ways, we value plants that are considered weeds. We have areas where we let it grow wild so that there's an abundance of life on the farm. And that's really our choice as organic farmers, that we go towards diversity. We choose organic farming because we want to farm with less of an environmental footprint, and our weed management is part of that.